Hey, turkeys, this is Dan and Margie.
Hello.
We're the Gen-Xers. Welcome to the big show. Johnny says welcome. Batman says welcome. These elephants and Skeletors say welcome.
Aretha says welcome. We all say welcome. And thank you guys for our very special episode that we had not too long ago, our 2,000 subscriber live special episode that we did.
That's where I'm putting the fireworks and editing.
Good one, yeah. Yeah, we had we had a little live episode. We didn't have much time to promote it. But there were a few people that showed up and watched us. Of course, it's on our channel if you want to go back and watch it. But again, thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for watching. We never thought,
Yeah.
So we're super happy. We're super happy and excited that we have so many subscribers.
Yeah, we're thankful for every subscriber we have. We don't take any of y'all for granted. And when we get to 3,000, we'll do another one.
That's right. Who knows what we'll do at 10,000? It'll be wild.
Climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh, I don't know if I'd
Guaranteed.
promise that.
Guaranteed.
I don't know about all that. When we did film our 2,000 subscriber special live episode, we actually recorded it just before the NBA finals, the 2025 NBA finals. And one of us called it. Do you know why? Because we split our vote. Because we're horrible at NBA predictions.
Just like we do every year, we made our NBA predictions. Yeah, and we're always wrong. But this time we picked different teams. Who do you got tonight?
I still have Oklahoma. I'm still rooting for Oklahoma.
I'm going to flip-flop, I guess. I'm going to take Indiana on Oklahoma's court for Game 7. There's an asterisk by it anyway because Halliburton, Indiana's best player, got hurt. And he was playing well before he got hurt, and it could have very well. Oh, it was such a good series. I hated to see that happen. Like, it breaks my heart, even when the team I don't like, if somebody gets hurt, man, especially in the playoffs, it taints the whole experience.
Well, that, and you're talking about a serious injury. It wasn't a sprain.
Achilles.
It was his Achilles tendon. It's a major injury. We don't like to see anybody get hurt. So that was heartbreaking. And would the outcome have been different? Maybe, because their bench was fighting in Halliburton's name for sure. It was a fight.
And the stuff they had trouble with down the stretch, penetration, ball handling, assist, that's the stuff Halliburton excels at. So, I still think maybe Oklahoma probably would have still won, but boy, it would have been a little closer, I'm sure.
I think Oklahoma might have had a couple more turnovers had Halliburton been in there too.
Yeah.
Because that turnovers plagued them throughout their postseason games, and especially with the Pacers. They were turning it over a lot to the Pacers.
I appreciate Halliburton's game a lot more after getting to see him throughout the whole playoffs than I did before only getting to see him a few times, because it's not all about scoring. He is a good passer. He was like a John Stockton of this series before he got hurt.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
No, I did. I was really sad to see him hurt. We don't want anybody to get hurt.
Luckily, they've got surgery now. A lot of people, it used to be that was the end of a career in basketball, but
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant got that experimental surgery at the time. It worked for him, and now a lot of people have come back from these. So.
Well, there's so many people that have had horrendous injuries, including Holmgren was one of them on the Oklahoma team.
Hips. Oh, boy.
When he had the fractured hip and came back from that. And I was like, he is playing basketball at that level on a fractured hip. I can barely walk across the room with my whole hip. So, amazing healthcare technologies.
Speaking of healthcare, we've got several updates for you on today's show.
Yeah.
Margaret, you've got a healthcare update.
I do.
Tell what's going on?
And it's not pleasant, guys.
It's never pleasant.
Not pleasant. We've told you guys, and you guys know, we've had episodes on this, how horrible healthcare is right now, how horrible healthcare insurance is right now, and how many of us are feeling delays and setbacks and hoops. Got to jump through this hoop and that hoop and this hoop. So, without giving away too much information, I will tell you that I am supposed to get a procedure, okay? and that I had gone to a specialist for this procedure, and we had set up for the procedure, and the doctor set it up and said, yes, this is what we need, and I agreed to the treatment plan. And so we all of us who are actually involved in this procedure all agreed that we should do this thing. Well, then the insurance comes in, and what happened was the specialist that I go to is a specialist in a small town that has a very small hospital facility that's there in town. It's a smaller hospital. It's not a big metro hospital. I don't even know how many people they hold, but it has a small emergency room, some small procedure rooms, and then a doctor's park that's attached to it. So this specialist told me, when we do this procedure, we're going to walk across the parking lot here and have it at this little hospital. They're the ones, we always have our procedures there. They have all the facilities there. We just use their place. And I said, okay, sounds good to me. Hospital's a good place for a procedure, right?
You think so?
I would think so. Well, the insurance came back and said, no, we can't cover it if you go to a hospital for this procedure. You have to go to somebody who has this stuff in their office. You have to go to a facility and not a hospital, because I guess it's cheaper. So, as an extra added thing, I now have to find a different provider, because my provider can only do this procedure in this hospital. That's what they have their contract, how they have their contract written, I guess. They cannot go to another facility. So I have to find a separate person to do this procedure and then send the procedure to the specialist that I want, because I'm not changing my doctor. I've chosen this doctor, and I've spent a long time choosing doctors and getting rid of doctors that I don't like, that aren't helping me, that aren't, understanding what I need, or, so I've chosen this specialist, but now I'm not able to get this procedure from the specialist I have chosen. No, I have to go get the procedure somewhere else and have the results sent to this doctor so that they can read the results, and then we can move on to a different part of my treatment.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
But if you think that's bad, my doctor wanted to do a procedure. I said, what? And he said, I'm going to help you get rid of 15 pounds of ugly fat. And I said, how? And he said, cut off your head. I said, you dirty dog.
Okay. All right. Are you quite done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was some good dad humor.
Thanks.
I think, yeah. Yeah, but that's, what can you do? We're trying to, I guess, follow the things that our insurance recommends, or we won't get that little bit of coverage.
Unless you've got tens of thousands of dollars in your back pocket with nothing else to do with it, all you can do is wait for them to say okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's just another delay tactic, honestly. It puts my treatment back more, but I am not a stranger to that at this point. Dan's not a stranger to that at this point. Our kids are not strangers to that, unfortunately. There's not a whole lot of people that I know that haven't been delayed in some way.
Well, maybe we can get into some kind of parallel universe where healthcare is good. Now that's a transition.
Good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
What you got, Margie? I heard you've got an update on our Mandela effect.
I do. Speaking of parallel universes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Great transition. You are getting good at those.
Thanks, hon.
Yeah. So, as many of you know, if you don't know,
You had no idea what I was transitioning into, did you?
no, not really.
Okay.
Nope.
Just
picked it up.
clarifying.
Just picked it up.
All right.
We're on a level.
That's true.
Okay. So many of you, if you haven't watched our latest episode on the Mandela effect, we have 2 of them at least, if not
And
a couple
plus
more.
other bits and pieces here and there, yeah.
Yeah, that we've referred to the Mandela effect. We're fans, by the way.
Yeah, big fan.
If you haven't watched our episode on the Mandela effect, please do so. during our latest Mandela Effect episode, we had one Mandela Effect that claimed that the bald eagle was never the
Well, I remember with a full head of hair.
No, he was always bald.
Okay.
The bald eagle was never, allegedly, the national bird. And we were like, what?
Yeah.
The bald eagle has always been the national bird, but in fact, Joe Biden actually signed the official recognition of the bald eagle as the national bird during his last term as president. So that's brand new. So we were like, well, what? We thought for years and years. And we presented a bit of trivia about the turkey being considered the national bird as proof that we knew that the bald eagle has always been the national bird. Well, I was looking over some World Book encyclopedias
that you read nightly.
I read. Yep, I've studied these extensively. We just happen to have a copy of this that I was flipping through. It's the E volume, which had an entry on the bald eagle, in which
I love this
I know,
old books.
I know. Anyway, this is in their entry about the North American bald eagle. It says, and this, by the way, this book, the World Book Encyclopedia, Volume E, this one was published in 1965. Okay? It states, the bald eagle is the official emblem of the United States, the president's flag, some coins, and paper money. Yeah.
But not the official bird.
Right. The bald eagle is the official emblem of the United States. So it was the official symbol, allegedly, according to the World Book Encyclopedia in 1965.
Well, I Googled, that's good residual evidence of something.
Right.
I'm not sure what.
Right.
I Googled when did the bald eagle become the national bird. Mm-hmm. And you know how they have AI answer everything first now. I did it twice. I got two different answers. The first time it said, it's been the national bird since always, since the founding, since way back when.
Yeah.
And we're like, what?
Yeah.
And then we tried again, and it gave the Joe Biden answer.
Right.
The exact same question, so who knows?
Right. So we found two different answers at least on this question that AI can't agree on, that we're finding different answers in books, in Google, in different searches.
Yeah.
Proof that there's at least two different quantum realities we're living in right now. I don't know. You tell me.
Could be up to 3 or 4.
Right? But we've got, somebody's confused about this. I'm confused about this.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about more of this stuff lately. We did our Mandela Effect episode. We did our Gate Program episode. Mm-hmm. And it got me thinking about maybe the strangest things that have ever happened in our lives, to us personally.
Yeah.
That we can't explain away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked you, we got to talking about it. We have a series on here called Top 3 Comedians, Top 3 whatever. Mm-hmm. So we decided to do one, Top 3 events have happened to us personally in our lives that we cannot explain. Strange things. So we hope you enjoy it. Here you go.
We were having a conversation the other day. Dan just happened to ask me, what are some weird things that have happened in your life that you can't explain? And we got, into a conversation about just some weird things, crazy things that have happened to us. And we thought we'd share with you some of the top 3 that we were remembering the other day, that we came up with. We were pretty surprised, that so many things had happened to us that were inexplicable.
Yeah, after we did that Gate video, and I got to thinking about how unexplainable a lot of that stuff was, and so many comments with the same experience. I mean, for years, I've had these experiences that I'm going to talk about, and I've just sequestered them off in my mind as, okay, I can't explain them, but there has to be a reasonable explanation somewhere.
Right.
Because I'm a reasonable person, I think. At least I've tried to be. But recently, I've opened myself up to this a little bit, so I wanted to ask you about yours And you've always been more open to this kind of thing than I have, I think.
I have, but I totally get the idea of kind of sequestering it and putting it away, because I think I've done that with some of my wilder tales. Because, yeah, you're just like, well, that's freaky. And I don't, sometimes it's disturbing to think about what happened. So you just kind of put it away.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't want people to think I'm crazy, and I don't want to think I'm crazy myself. So, yeah, you're just like, whatever.
Right.
But, well, we've got some for you, folks. Margie, you want to start us out?
Yeah, we pulled those out, and we're going to examine those and see what you guys think. My first tale, I'll set it up for you a little bit. We lived at the time in a farmhouse that was 150 years old plus. It was very old. It had its own graveyard, family graveyard that was attached to the property.
This is when you were a child.
This is when I was a child. So this was when I was in about 6th or 7th grade, maybe 8th grade. So we lived in this farmhouse that was very old, and we had everybody in our family, except for my stepdad, who had never mentioned that he had experienced anything. But everybody else had experienced something. They'd felt something, they'd heard something, they'd seen something. It was never alarming. A lot of the times I was at that house by myself, or I would be babysitting my younger siblings. Never felt scared or nervous, even when I was alone there, even when I heard things there or felt things there that seemed paranormal or weird. So yeah, it was a nice house. I used to love living there. So we're at the farmhouse. I'm in 7th-ish grade. I had my friend over, my BFF, who's still my BFF today, Connie. She was over, and had a sleepover with me, and I shared a bedroom with my sister at that time. So we had the same bedroom, and then Connie was with us in the bedroom. Same sleepover stuff that happens most every time. We stay up late, we do our nails, we chit chat, we talk about this and that, and then we went to sleep fairly late. So I'm imagining 12 or 1, although I can't remember, specifically what time we went to bed, but I know it was late. I lived in that farmhouse. I shared a bedroom with my sister. I also had 3 other siblings who were young. I was babysitting a lot. And they were in a bedroom right next to us and right down below us. Also in a bedroom right below us were my mom and my stepdad. My stepdad had to wake up very early in the mornings to go to work at Chrysler. So he was a light sleeper, and we were all always very careful to be very quiet so that he would not wake up in the middle of the night, because he had to wake up at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to get ready to leave for work. So we go to bed, late. We are all awakened in the middle of the night by our closet door that was in that room slamming shut as loud as it can. Kaboom! And it was an old closet door. It was unmistakable. I mean, just slamming as hard as it could. We all get up and we all go to the flashlight to the light switch, and we all turn it on, and we're all clinging on to the light switch, all looking back at this closet. Every single one of us. Me, Connie, Barb. So I know that's where it came from. It was right there in our room. Kablam! Well, my first thought was, oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I was terrified because I didn't know what it was. But my second thought was, oh my God, we've woken up everybody in the household. We're going to be in deep trouble. We're going to be in deep trouble. Because it was so loud. It echoed throughout the whole house. So I sneaked over to my siblings' room right next door. They were all asleep. I snuck downstairs, peeked into the bedroom just underneath ours. Everybody's asleep. Nobody woke up. And it was so loud. I mean, you could not have done it louder had the strongest person in the world been on the other side of it, just slamming it as hard as they could. So we sat up for a little while. We whispered, what was that? I don't even know what was going on. We checked in the closet and we never did figure out what made that noise. Next morning we woke up, and we just went on about our day. We never talked about it again, really, except in later years to go, do you remember that? It was so wild. How did that happen? I do have to say that closet, my stepdad would come up to our bedroom, to that closet all the time to work on the attic fan, because that farmhouse had an attic fan that was constantly breaking. Mm-hmm. An attic fan is a lovely thing if it's not broken, but he would come up there and he would try to fix it. And every time he opened that closet door and there was an attic panel in the back of the closet, every time he moved that attic panel, there would be mouse bones in there. Every single time. He would clear them out. He wouldn't say anything about it. Okay. And then he'd clear them out, and then the next time there would be mouse bones right in the same spot. Every time. So, don't know.
Pretty strange. Now, you said other stuff happened in that house. Like, everybody has stories, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of my younger sisters, swears up and down that she was asleep one morning and trying to sleep in. The sun was up, and she felt like somebody kind of trying to get her attention by pushing her through the covers. And she peeked out and there was nobody there. And so she covered up her head again. And then she felt somebody like jumping, like kind of bouncing on the bed a little bit. And again, she uncovered, nobody there. And she just covered her head back and just like waited for everybody else to get up. I think. So
I don't really have any ghost stories myself. I guess there have been times that maybe I've seen something on the corner of my eye and wondered what was that. But my dad, who was not real prone to flights of fancy, he swore that when him and my mom first got married, they lived in a haunted house, and he would tell me stories about that. Like, he swore up and down his entire life that house was haunted.
Why did he think it was haunted so much?
Door handles jiggling in the middle of the night, and him opening it up and nobody being there. Noises. He said a glass moved across the table one night, and him and my mom both saw it.
Really?
So I don't know.
Has your mom corroborated that?
She does, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't asked her about it in a long time, but maybe I should. My number 3 is kind of a biggie, so I'm going to make you wonder what my number 2 and number 1 is, I guess. But Marge, when we first met, would you describe me as a religious person? Is that how you would have described me?
No, not at all.
No.
No.
In fact, probably just the opposite.
Yeah.
But I grew up religious. I mean, a religious household. My grandma took me to church all the time. It was pretty hardcore church. It was one of those all talking about the hellfire and the damnation and whatever. And I was kind of a sensitive, in my head kid who liked to read, so I got obsessed with Book of Revelations, whatever. The point is, I would get so OCD about it. By the time I got to be like 15, I was like, I got to stop. So I just stopped believing in whatever, and I was a little bitter about it for a long time.
Yeah.
So again, one of these and not anymore, but again, one of these memories that I pushed aside because I didn't want to think about it really. But when I was in church camp as a kid, and it was one of the smaller years, I used to go every summer, and there was probably 20, 25 of us all together plus the adults. And it was a tough year. The preacher who was in charge of the male dorm and the lady in charge of the female dorm had a falling out. And it was pretty traumatic to all the kids there because she was leaving and taking some of the kids with her who were all of our friends.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so that night, we're sitting in the kitchen talking about it. Adults, kids, trying to, talk about this thing. And someone says, I see something glowing outside. We go out of the kitchen, which was in the middle of the dorms, like it was a big dining room type thing. We all start going out there, and then out in the woods, like there's the baseball field, and then there's the woods behind it. We just see these glowing white figures sitting in the trees, standing by the trees. Like there's probably 30 of these things, maybe. Wow. And I mean, they're all like glowing white, almost like you would see a negative picture, because you can almost see like little outlines of moving, waving, whatever. And someone says they're angels. I'm not going to try to sit here and say what they were. Right. But that's what we believed at the time and what we ended up believing. We all tried to walk closer, to get a better look, and we got, pretty far, but the closer we got, kids started crying, adults started crying and wailing, falling to the ground. A few people threw up.
Just overcome completely.
Just overcome completely.
Yeah.
And it was one of the surrealest, amazing moments of my life, which I later pushed away as mass hallucination or something. But the reason that's only number 3 now is because I do believe we saw something. Again, I'm not going to sit here and try to define the mysteries of the universe.
Yeah.
And what was that? But whatever it was good. It was good energy. It was a good whatever. It was not bad. So that's my story with that. I'm going to see... I know at least 3 of the people from back then I can get a hold of. I'm going to get a hold of some of the people that was there and see what they remember.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I know one of those people.
Yeah.
That you'll be asking. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you about that. I've never had a similar experience. And especially, I don't think not a spiritual one that's similar to that. I know you said that you felt like it was a good experience. You think when people were like getting sick and stuff, they were just overcome. Like, it seems like a happy sort of, oh my gosh, like just being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't I'm sick
like
because
seeing the Beatles in the height of their popularity type thing.
All
maybe.
right, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was not a bad. Everyone, I was agreement that there was this good energy or whatever you want to call it in the air.
Do you remember how long, like, it lasted? Like, were you guys out there for very long? Did you...
Boy, 15, 20 minutes maybe? 15 at least before they just kind of faded out. Good question, because I have not thought about, I have these images in my mind, but I haven't, thought about it from beginning to end in a long time, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just kind of faded out. I do remember afterwards, the preacher had us all write a note of what happened and what it meant to us and put in an envelope, and he said, keep it until someday in your future when you need it to take it out and look at it. I lost mine eventually.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, I wish I still had it.
I was going to ask.
And I do remember tangentially there being some, because I was just, I was pretty young, I didn't get all the information, some scandal on this because we all went back to our regular churches and told the story during testimonial. And some of the preachers called this preacher up and said, hey man, you can't have these kids believing this stuff. And he wouldn't denounce it. He was like, no, this happened. And a lot of people did not want anyone speaking of it. It went all the way to the state board, I believe, to some.
Isn't that crazy? And
Yeah.
I think churches do that sometimes where, we talk about miracles and this and that, but if something really happens, they're like, hey,
Ixnay on the miracle day. Yeah.
Ixnay, yeah. That's crazy. What are you talking about?
So that's a biggie for me. I'm going to see what I can get a hold of, who I can get a hold of, and what I can find out memory-wise. But yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, let me tell you my number 2.
All right.
Are you ready for my number 2?
Mm-hmm.
This one's a little bit more, well, it's not any more complex. It does need a little bit of a setup, of course. So, about probably, 15-ish years ago, I was working at a healthcare facility that housed people. So we had maybe 12, 13 housed individuals in this facility. And I worked day shift along with one other person, and then 2 people worked night shift. And I was coming in. I was, basically a CNA type person. And me and my coworker were coming in to relieve 2 other coworkers who had been on night shift. And when we arrived, the night shift crew told us that one of our patients had become very agitated in the night, and that he had become so agitated that he was awake for like a couple hours. He'd run up, he jumped into one of the staff members' laps and was like sobbing and crying and clinging to her, and that we should let him sleep. And they said, if you want to see what happened, if you want to know in detail, you can look on the cameras. Well, at that time, we had a small laptop that had our camera views. There were multiple cameras in the house, and we had access to that, and we could back it up and look and view close up and zoom in and all kinds of stuff that we had capabilities.
That's what you sound like when you see one of these things.
Capabilities on that camera. We had, all capabilities. So me and my coworker, we start looking at these camera views. Mm-hmm. And once we go through the incident and there's no issue, but we're looking, back a little bit. Okay, when did it start? Was there any kind of precipitating factor, any kind of thing like that? Well, she uncovers this orb. Okay, and you're gonna hear orb, and your mind's gonna go, that's BS.
If you Google orbs, you'll find literally millions of pictures of orbs, which people think are lots of different things. Some people think they're spirits of dead people or deceased individuals. Some people think they're fairies. Some people even think they're aliens.
But that isn't the case, is it?
That is not the case. There are many, many things that create orbs, right?
Yes, like dust.
And for a lot of people believe that the orb stuff is very questionable at best. Okay, and I'm one of them. But this is what happened, and my coworker actually was like CSI Miami on this. Like, she was backing it up and zooming in and showing me and taking, blah, all this stuff for like a couple hours. She was doing this. So after we'd pieced together all the different angles, this is exactly what happened, according to the camera views.
Okay.
Middle of the night, my two coworkers that were working night shift were out, had done some checks around the facility. They were out talking to each other in the living room, and the TV was on in the background.
Okay.
As they're talking, you see a small, like a dime, maybe nickel-sized orb go from the office, the closed office door, through the wall, and it was up near the ceiling, and it went across the ceiling kind of slowly, and then it went down the hallway to this gentleman's room. It went down the hallway, and it literally entered his room. We saw it. Moments after it enters his room, he starts screaming and running out of his room. That's when he runs up front, he jumps into the staff member's lap, and he's weeping and crying. As the night crew is trying to comfort him, and oh, hey, it's okay, and they're comforting him, and they, you can tell they're trying to make sure he's okay. That orb comes out of his room, comes up the hallway.
Power off.
Turns our speaker off.
Enters the locked kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
The kitchen was locked at the time. We always kept it locked. There are two or three cameras in the kitchen. They're all motion detected. 2 of them came on and recorded that orb zipping around the kitchen, and then it leaves the kitchen, disappears from the whole house, and those motion detected cameras pop off like a couple seconds after it leaves the kitchen.
Wow.
The end.
That's pretty creepy. Did you feel anything there? Did you ever have any other creepy things at that place?
No, I do have to say, what really made it, it just really gave it more of a sense of unrealness, because for a couple days before this happened, he was getting ready for it to happen. He was setting up he would set up shrines and signs and stuff in his room to keep like he would say keep away from me. I don't want any demons or spirits or whatever he was keeping away.
So he thought it was a demon. Yeah.
I think he thought it was a demon, and I don't know what it was. I just know that he seemed to really react from this orb that entered his room. Immediate reaction, and then the orb followed him out, interacted with 2 cameras in the kitchen, turned them on, went through walls, and then zipped out of view, never to be seen again.
He was sensing something.
I don't know. I have no idea what it is, but I do. That to me is a tough one, because so many times I've seen camera views of orbs or pictures of orbs, and I'm like,
Behold, the mysterious floating orb. Ooh, ah.
I looked these up a little bit, and it seems like there's some, even amongst ghost hunters, who say these orbs are not proof of whatever.
right.
But then other people say they are. But this doesn't sound like the typical kind of speck of dust floating across the camera.
Right.
This seems like something moving with some kind of intelligence.
Well, and I know that you helped look up some information on orbs.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole bunch of information about the different colors of orbs and what they might mean. White orbs, white and silver are thought to be positive. Red orbs are thought to be like a warm, sort of caring, spiritual, whatever. Black orbs may be negative, but only in the fact that, like, not necessarily angry, but negative in some way, or low energy type. Green associated with oneness with the earth, and blue is a calming or healing sort of orb. And then at the very bottom it has the demonic orbs. In some paranormal interpretations, certain orbs, especially those that appear dark or menacing, might be associated with demonic or negative entities. I can't tell you what color the orb was because this was a black and white camera. I do know that it showed up as a light gray on the camera.
Okay.
I have no idea what color it would have been in real life.
Well, this fella certainly thought it was of the evil variety.
Yeah, I don't know, but that was my second weird, crazy happening to me that I can't explain.
My second one is basically the one that inspired this question and eventually this video. We did our gate program video, and when we talked about the qualities people in the gate program have that they share, one of them was they either saw a UFO or had, interest in it or whatever. And I told the story, which I've told you before, I believe, but I can't remember if I actually had or not, of me and my brother and grandma seeing this triangle-shaped black UFO slowly, and I even remember my grandma mentioning something about how slow it was moving, come over our house. And my grandma brought me out there to see it. She was very religious, but she was into the UFO stuff, man. She was into those Time Life books or whatever, Mysteries or whatever.
Those were the greatest.
She was into the Lost Book of Enoch, which is an epiphorical Bible book, so it's kind of tangential. It didn't get in. Almost made the cut, but not quite. But it has all kinds of UFO stuff in there. Mm-hmm. So she was into UFO, so it doesn't surprise me that if she saw one, she'd want me to come out and see it. But pointing up and being happy about it, and my brother being kind of freaked out. He probably had a beer, but who knows though. But anyway, that's all I remember of it, except it is so vivid. And like I've said on here before, I do have very detailed dreams. Like, they're very realistic dreams. So I've always told myself it was a dream, but it doesn't feel like one. So when we made that video, a few people posted in the comments that people who were in this gate program have seen those UFOs. Now, other than that, the only other time I've really been freaked out about this, other than when it happened and after I pushed it away, is when I first saw a picture of one of these kind of UFOs, and I'll put one here, and I was like, holy crap, that's exactly what I saw as a kid. Yeah. And there are a lot of information out there about these. Apparently, they're one of the most common types.
So this leads me to a personal story. I saw a triangular UFO.
Like, describe what you saw. You said it was...
It's a triangle shape, and like on each corner, big, round, glowing light. And then the rest of it's black, and it's very slow moving, hovering even. And because of it's kind of looking a bit like a stealth fighter maybe, a lot of people say that these are government created, based on UFO technology that they've gotten. But that this is our government doing things and not the UFOs. And other people say no, it's the UFOs. But people in the Air Force have seen them. In 1997 in Phoenix, there's a huge sighting, and that's on video, and I'll put that here, and I believe Kurt Russell, one of the people who saw that one.
One of the observers, okay.
We were on approach, and I saw 6 lights over the airport in absolute uniform in a V shape, and I reported it. And they said, we're not painting anything, we don't show anything. I said, well, okay, I'm going to declare it's unidentified, it's flying, and it's 6 objects.
Do you remember how close it was? Like, when you looked up, how close was it to...
We can go to right where I was, and we will, and we will take a video picture of exactly where I was at when I saw it, and it was about twice as big, maybe twice and a half higher than the tree we'll see in that shot that I'm going to put right here in editing. Yeah, now that I'm out here looking, it seems like maybe 3 times the height of this tree, or about as high as a kite, I guess. But I mean, low for what you'd expect that kind of thing to be. Very low.
So did it fill the sky whenever you saw it?
It was pretty big, yeah. I would say it was probably seemed larger than our house at the time, yeah. Again, slow moving. I don't remember anything after that.
2 years later, Goldie is watching a television show when I came home.
Yeah.
And the show is on UFOs. Finally, I said, then they said the pilot reported it, a general aviation pilot reported it on landing. I'd never thought of it since then, and I said, that was me. The fascinating part of that to me is that it just went literally out of my head.
All my life, when someone asked me if I've ever seen UFO, when they'd tell their stories, I'd say no, but I would like to. Because I'm interested in space. I love space travel, sci-fi movies, all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
I'd never tell them this story for whatever reason.
Because
Yeah.
you're the reasonable man. You're the logical man. Well, you know. No, I totally get it. Like I said, when you get adult, you think, well, I should put away those childish things. But there are still crazy things that happen to adults. And still crazy things that, we can't explain.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're an adult. You don't know.
Here's number 1. Margie, what's yours?
My number 1
Crazy and unexplainable.
is a doozy. Because we have been talking about multiple universes. I don't even know what it was. I'm going to tell you guys, and you guys can help me decide. How about that? So, this happened when I was very young. I was like 5 or 6 years old. I've always been pretty methodical as a person. As a kid growing up, I'm just I get kind of wild, but I'm mostly methodical about my stuff. And I had a routine when I would get up at night to go to the bathroom. I had a routine to keep myself safe and keep the monsters away. And what I would do is I shared a bedroom with my sister. Again, we had bunk beds. I slept on the bottom, or on the top at that time. I would climb down off the bed, which I had a nightlight, so you had a nightlight to see during this whole time. Climb down off the bed quietly. I would turn on our bedroom light. I didn't care that my sister was asleep. I didn't care. Turn on the bedroom light, because you need light. And then I'd peer down the hallway, and it had light switches at either end, so I'd turn on the light closest to our bedroom. Then I'd step into the hallway, peer around, make sure nothing was out there. I'd walk to the bathroom, peek into the bathroom, turn that light on. I'd step back out. I'd look at that bathroom first, and then I'd step in, shut the door, lock it, go to the bathroom, and then I'd repeat it all the way back to the bed. So you have to check behind you, make sure you weren't letting any monsters sneak up from behind, right? So I wake up one night, I do the routine, and trust me, by the time you get to the end of that routine, you're well awake. You're not half asleep. You got to do all this stuff to prep for monsters, right? So I go to the bathroom, then I retrace my steps. I shut off the bathroom light. I go through the hallway. I shut off the hallway light. I step into my bedroom, and my sister is still asleep on the bottom bunk. The light is still on. Everything in my room is still the same. All my toys are in their same places. My bed is in the same place. My covers are in the same place. But there's a room full of adults. It was like 10, 15 people in my room. It wasn't a big room. and they're like in the middle of a party. They were like dressed in, there's one guy I remember a guy in a tux. I remember a couple people in evening gowns. I remember like
Nobody in your family would have been in a tux.
no, a headdress, like some lady had like a headdress. Somebody was holding a tray of things. And it's all hustling and bustling. And I step into the doorway and they all turn around and look at me. And I looked at them. And we all just look at each other. And then I walk back down to the bathroom and shut the door and lock it. And I'm just like sitting there.
Weird.
And I'm like, what? And I don't even, I know I didn't say anything because I didn't want to wake anybody up. I know my parents probably would have been upset if I was awake, after bedtime. So I just sat in there. And I remember like walking around the bathroom and listening to the door, like seeing, if something would happen. And finally, after what seemed like many, many minutes, I cracked open the door. I peeked down the hallway. I snuck down the hallway and I peeked around my doorway and there was nobody there. And then I shut off the light and I went back to bed. But I think I actually crawled into my sister's bed that night after that. And I stayed awake for quite some time. But I'm telling you, it was not a dream. I was wide awake. I was in my routine that I did every time I woke up to go to the bathroom. To me, the people seemed solid in a way, but they also seemed translucent. You could see through parts of them. I don't know how to explain it. The edges were kind of translucent.
Did you tell anybody about this later?
No.
You told me when we had met early or early in our marriage or whatever. I thought, my God, there's something wrong with this lady. No, I didn't. No, I think that's probably when I told you about my number one.
Yeah.
But I remember at the time you thinking ghost. Now both of us know a little bit more about science and physics and the fringer theories, and we all know about the multiverse thanks to popular culture now. So now what do you think?
This was not... I don't think this was a ghostly event at all. It didn't feel ghostly. It didn't feel like these were spirits. It felt like I had literally walked into somebody's room that I shouldn't have. That I literally walked through a doorway I shouldn't have. And the people that I saw seemed just as perplexed as I was. Like everybody was like,
it's weird that they saw you too.
Everybody turned, and that's what's really freaked me out. Not that, coming upon a room full of people that weren't there before would have been freaky to begin with. But yeah, they all turned around and went.
Let us know in the comments if you had any similar experiences to any of these, because we'd love to hear, and it helps us do follow-ups anyways.
Yeah. That was my number one craziest story.
That is very crazy.
I don't have anything to explain that other than there's alternate universes out there, folks. I don't know what to tell you.
Here's my number one, and I still have trouble talking about it. I don't want to talk about it, really. It brings up too many questions, possibilities, but I'm going to do it. When I was a kid, I had many probably I can't even remember dreams that came true. And I remember telling you this when we first got married, and I'm surprised you didn't run away. They were all small stuff for the most part. I got a package from Mexico one time because we had to write another country in grade school. And I dreamt I got it the next day, and it was the exact same size as the envelope. The emblem, which I'd never seen before in my life, I dreamt about, was in the corner, all very detailed. This is the first time I can remember this happening, actually. And I remember pulling that package out the next morning because I went and checked the mail and being freaked the crap out as a kid. And I didn't tell nobody.
Yeah.
Next time it happened, or one of the other times it happened, again, there's probably ones I don't remember. I met my brother's girlfriend brother for the first time over at this, big dirt pile thing we all used to drive dune buggies or whatever on. That don't matter. It's where motorcyclists and whoever went. And it was the night before I dreamt I'd met this redhead, baldish looking guy at this place, sitting on the back of his truck, tailgate, like people do, and walking by and him giving me a mean look like that. And in the dream, it scared me. And the next day, everything, Margaret, just exactly the same.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard to talk about. And the guy gave me that look. And he was just joking around, and I met him. He became one of my favorite people as a little kid. He was very friendly. He was just, messing with me. And then a big one did happen. My brother died in a car wreck when I was 13. Night before, I had a dream about it. Woke up the next day, it happened. Oddly enough, my friend Jason across the street, who our families were pretty close, also had a dream about it.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Wow.
And after that, it never happened again. Until a friend of ours got pregnant. And I woke up one morning, I said, Margaret, so-and-so was pregnant. Mm-hmm. We went to check our email, so-and-so was pregnant.
Yeah.
And then, once more, a bit recently, after I have opened myself back up to this stuff more maybe, you said to me, and I still don't think you believe this one. I don't think you buy it. But you said to me, come on, came over work and you said, come on, I want to show you something. And I said, it's an orange camper. Because the night before I had a dream, you came from work and said, come on, I got to show you something. You want to show me this nice orange camper.
I do believe that because you totally told me as I was showing you. And I was like, oh, I've never, like we weren't talking about campers at the time. I just happened to see it like a couple days before going to or from work. And I was like, oh, look at that. I gotta show Dan because that's something I want.
It was a cool camper.
It was a cool camper. But yeah, you had no idea. Yeah, I hadn't. Like I said, we weren't talking about it. We're not in the market for one. We weren't in the market for one.
Yeah.
So yeah, no.
Weird. I don't know. Again, I'm uncomfortable talking about it because I'm uncomfortable with that kind of attention or whatever. I don't know how to put it. I
not only
I don't want anyone thinking I think I'm a psychic or anything because I do not.
No, but I can totally understand you not talking about it too for many, many years because what a traumatic thing to dream about beforehand.
Well, yeah.
It's no wonder you kind of cut yourself off from, whatever, thinking about that, belief in that, whatever. And no wonder we kind of, are just kind of shut ourselves off from that. It's scary a lot of the times, and it's crazy, and it's confounding, and you just don't know what to do. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry that it happened in such a traumatic instance.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. But you had all kinds of, experiences with it over and over again. Like, did you, I guess you really just didn't tell anybody about it except for your friends, I guess, at the time? You didn't tell your family about it?
I don't think I ever told anybody about it except you. And maybe my best friend.
Yeah.
Who he would not believe this stuff anyway. He's very logical, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's again, I don't like to think about too much because it brings up so many questions. But I have been thinking about it. All right, Marge, it was a lot of fun talking to you about that stuff. Mm-hmm. Kind of like when you're young and you first meet again, you're telling each other everything. We haven't revisited a lot of that stuff in a long, long time because of practical life has been here. Right. Paying bills, raising children.
You know what we haven't done in a while, and it may be why we haven't done this in a while, shared these stories in a while, is had a bonfire. What better way? Everybody should have a bonfire, go out there and tell campfire stories like that, and also leave them in our comments, too.
That's true.
If you guys have any of your own stories.
Yeah, let us know what the most inexplainable thing that has happened to you is, please, in the comments, and maybe we'll look into the phenomenon or whatever. I don't know. I'm having fun looking into this stuff.
Yeah.
Margie.
Yes.
Oh, Margie.
Yeah?
It's time for a transition. You got one?
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. Keep it up.
Something that we've been doing on this show from the very beginning, since we first started about 3 years ago, is the topic jar. You want to show them this thing?
Topic jar right here.
Marge made this, and we just put random topics in it. We pull them out. We talk about it off the top of our head.
A bunch of them in there.
Probably we'll get a bunch of stuff wrong because we're not looking up facts and stuff on the phone like people do these days. We're talking old-fashioned, like out of our butts.
Right. It's how we communicate as Gen-Xers. That's right. You should know. But anyway, yeah, we have a whole jar of different topics. I haven't looked at these in a long time. And so let's just grab one. You want to
Some
grab
of them
one?
might be like 3 years old. We might even know what we're talking about when we put them in there.
Right.
What totally useless thing would you like to take up?
What totally useless thing would I like to take up? Well, everything's useful, right? If only to entertain ourselves. I entertain myself a lot.
Really?
Totally useless thing. Probably, although I contend it's not useless, I would probably take up making dollhouses and stuff. Because I made one time for our girls. And it was fun. And it was painstaking. And it took a long time. And I cussed more than once. But it was rewarding. And yeah, it was really rewarding. And ultimately it was fun.
Podcasting. Hey-o!
Oh!
No, making dollhouses isn't useless. The girls loved it. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I loved making it.
Neither is
It's really-
podcasts. I don't know what we were thinking we put that in there. I can't think of anything useless.
Yeah.
Ooh, how do you think a quantum chip computes? Would you like to start?
Okay. So yeah, they came out with the quantum chip not so long ago. That's not a very old topic.
I mean, they didn't come out with it necessarily. You can't pick it up at Best Buy.
Oh, you can't?
But Google says they've got one.
That's what the guy told me when he sold it to me. Dang. So, I mean, what does that even mean? You know, I don't even know what quantum physics really means, other than that there may be more possibilities than the one we actually live in.
Well, that's the multiverse theory.
Oh.
Richard Feynman said, but I mean, quantum mechanics does lend itself to that. The
Right,
basis of
of
quantum
course.
mechanics is probably the double slit experiment. Remember when we watched that
Yes.
time? We should probably do like a reaction to that. Just the idea that a particle or whatever, these bits of information can act as both particle and wave, or I don't know. I can't explain it. Richard Feynman said if you think you understand quantum physics, you don't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's very, very complicated stuff. Where were we? Well, we talking about the stupid chip.
The chip, how does it do quantum chip work? Like, what does that mean?
Apparently, it means instead of like a regular computer, it's solving a problem kind of in a linear fashion, at least to some extent, how you would expect. A quantum chip can apparently, because, well, you remember when we watched that thing and they talked about entanglement and how two particles or whatever can be entangled and you spin one and the other one spins.
Right.
It's using that somehow so that it's in different states at different times, computing. So basically computing at an exponential rate because it can do it in different space times, man. I don't know, Margaret.
Sure. No, I get it now. I totally get it now. It's all clear. And it's just as I suspected that chip was acting.
Some folks say that it's actually pulling information in from a parallel universe or multiverse.
How come quantum computers are so powerful? It's because they compute in parallel universes.
Google says its new quantum chip might have proved the existence of parallel universes.
Google's quantum computer, Sycamore, did something that's going to break your brain.
Google just announced this crazy new quantum computing chip. It can solve a problem in 5 minutes that would take one of the fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years.
Now, when you get to this level of stuff, it comes down to math. I'm not able to do or understand, so I don't know, man. Like, I'm good with concepts, I ain't good on the math so much.
Yeah, I'm struggling with both at this point. But yeah, I have no idea how a quantum chip would work, you know. Scott Bakula,
Hey, that was a good show.
that
Quantum
was a
Leap.
good show.
They did a reboot or a remake or something, not so good. And they didn't even invite Scott Bakula to be part of it. You sons of guns. Dirty dogs!
Oh boy.
Okay, I'm gonna pick one this time.
All right. Yeah, mine have been, we've really not had answers to those at all. Sorry, folks. If you were expecting a lesson on quantum computing.
No, I think you explained it quite clearly.
Maybe we can get someone on here to talk to about quantum computing.
Maybe. Oh. No, we could be here with Dan for quite some time. Tell a story, Dan, about how hard it was growing up.
It's no secret. I grew up very poor in a lead mining town that is an environmental disaster. I'm going to be doing a video on this. Like, this place is just covered in lead dust or whatnot.
It truly is.
Yeah, and it's a mess. I didn't grow up unhappy because of being poor. I don't want to put it that way, but I mean, it was struggling sometimes. I can remember one time, I guess we must have got it on a sale or something. Big old ham. Big old boneless ham. Good. Yummy. You've been eating on that same ham every morning, noon, and night for 2.5 weeks. I remember going to the neighbor's house for dinner and being like, thank God it's not that ham.
That ham lived in legend because Dan has asked about that ham within the past 10 years. 5-10 years. And this happened when he was, I don't know, how old were you?
I don't know, between 8 and 12, it's all kind of a blur.
Yeah, he asked his mom, why did you buy that ham? And she said, I know it lasted for a really long time. I'm sorry, son.
Yeah. It was good.
That was legendary in your family.
How about you? What have you got?
Got nothing.
That was the ham. That was like a miracle ham.
The loaves and the fishes ham.
Yeah, it should have lasted about a week. It somehow lasted months. It lasted all winter long. The ham. My dad was out at work. We didn't have no money for food.
You were provided.
That's right.
Somebody provided. All right, we're going to choose another topic.
All right, one more.
One more topic. We're going to shake it up again. These are pretty
good.
good so far. I think
Yeah,
these are
it's
pretty
fun.
universal. Maybe, hopefully.
I got more stories. I mean, if you want me to regale you with more stories about growing up.
It's fine.
All right.
It's fine. We got to stretch out, the viewing pleasure for our viewers. Okay, one crazy thing you do as a millionaire. And may I say...
Can we go to B in front of that? I don't think $1 million's enough to do anything crazy with anymore. Buy a house?
Pay off student loans? Perhaps?
Now, back in my day, Margie, our day, a millionaire, that was the rich people were the millionaires. And they were big fat guys with big fat cigars and top hats and tiny coats.
The Monopoly, the monocle, yeah.
Sweating and making deals in a back room. Not nice guys, but fine. Now, these billionaires are different class, man. You see pictures of them, they look like they're going to space. They look like they've come from space half the time. They're so pale, they're almost translucent. You get these pictures of, I'll put a few up. I don't want to say anything because they're probably listening.
In our day, a millionaire would buy a white tiger, and that would be the end of it.
That was the height of being eccentric.
Right.
Yeah, buy a tiger.
They wouldn't be taking Katy Perry to space and, I don't know.
Changing the course of world politics.
Renting Venice and whatever.
Trying to put chips into people's brains.
Right. But anywho, what would
Streaming Diablo 4.
What would I...
Would you find John D. Rockefeller streaming Diablo 4, Margaret? Answer me that question.
Of course not. One crazy thing I'd do as a billionaire, we're going to put a B in front of that. Man. What would... One crazy thing I'd do as a millionaire? I'd probably buy like a theater of some sort. I would have to have some sort of theater. where I don't know what I would do with it.
Perform your one-woman plays?
I'd figure that out later, Dan. Okay? There's so many things you could do with the theater.
Okay.
But yes, I would buy a theater, and I would probably buy an old theater, like the I'm not going to say where it's at, but we know an old theater that's like the Esquire that is so fantastic. It's like Art Deco, arts and crafts. Totally redo one of those things and then, like I said, figure out the rest later.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, obviously I do good things. The crazy thing I would do, finance not only Grown Ups 3, but I would create a Grown Ups universe. So, Chris Rock would have his spin-off. I would just be just like the Avengers. You'd have a Chris Rock movie where he's his grown-up. Have an Adam Sandler movie where he's his grown-up. And one where Kevin James is doing his thing. Maybe not the other guy. But anyway. And then they all come together in the actual grown-ups movie, which would be like the Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
So, man, could you imagine the excitement?
And then maybe they could cross universes with the Wild Hogs universe as well.
Barbara, don't get me. Oh my God, I about had a.
What do you? Yeah.
I had an out-of-body experience before we even start those gateway tapes. Thinking about how awesome that would be.
Right. Speaking of, we're going to be doing those gate tapes.
We're going to try them. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah.
If it gets too crazy, I might quit. I'm a scaredy cat.
You think you will?
No? A scaredy cat grew up lead mine.
Oh, yeah.
My pillow was a lead chunk, and my blanket was a lead chunk, and my pacifier, you know what that was?
What?
Chunk of lead.
And you ate ham for 40 years straight.
Yeah.
Before you got out of these lead mines.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I haven't started the gate tapes yet, but we are in the future going to be comparing our experiences listening to independently of each other the Gateway tapes, the Gateway program.
As well as doing a report on what they are, if you don't know what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Just cause.
Yeah. Why not?
Right.
All right, later, taters. We got lots of interesting stuff coming up, so we hope you stick with us. Next week, we'll have something up. We'll see. I don't know. It'll be a surprise. The following week, catch you back right here.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.